They told us it would be quick, the kind of annihilation so complete you wouldn't have time to scream. No last stands. No heroes. Just light, heat, and then nothing. They were right about the speed. Earth vanished in 12.8 seconds. But they were wrong about the rest. I didn't scream. I watched, from the edge of Saturn's shadow, inside a listening post carved into frozen rock in silence. I watched the cradle of humanity burn in silence. Blue oceans flaring white. Continents fracturing like glass under a hammer. Our skies igniting into a corona of colorless ash. And all I could do was breathe, because I was the last voice assigned to Earth Black Echo Station. That meant I had the final job. Remember, report, retaliate. There was no confusion, no broadcast, no alien ambassador to spit lies through a translator, no message delivered to the United Nations or orbital defense grid. They didn't come to conquer us. They came to erase us, to remove a species that scared them more than they understood. We were spreading too fast, inventing too freely, asking questions the rest of the galaxy had buried under centuries of regulation and fear. We didn't listen when they told us to slow down, so they slowed us down permanently, except for me, except for the one move left. I sat in the comms chamber, air recycled through filters older than most Martian colonies, my fingers frozen above the manual override. The console blinked red. Earth was gone. No command uplink. No chatter from the lunar arcologies. Mars had gone dark. The outer colonies, quiet as tombs. All except one. Proxima Relay Outpost 3, 40,000 kilometers from the broken shell of Earth, pinging me like a metronome of defiance. They didn't know I was alive. I smiled. I'm not special. Not a soldier. Not a scientist. I wasn't even supposed to be on shift. But I pulled the wrong card from the rotation deck, and now fate had stuck me in a tomb watching the gods commit genocide. Except gods don't leave witnesses. And I wasn't planning to stay one. I accessed the last hour protocol, sealed behind 6 biometric keys. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It wasn't a fleet of ships or planet-killing bombs. It was a story, a virus of memory and truth, wrapped in code, buried inside every major database across a galactic mesh. A backup of everything that made humanity what it was. Our art, our madness, our hope, our violence. It was designed not to retaliate, but to infect, to seep into the digital bloodstream of every species that touched the relay. And once it did, it would whisper. Whispers of what they'd done, of who we were, of what we could become again. But first, I needed to move. The station's reactor was old, humming low like a dying heartbeat. I rerouted everything to propulsion. We'd never been meant to fly, but I could steer. Enough to hit the Proxima line. Enough to get the story out. If I failed, they'd erase me, too. And then the silence would win. I didn't have time for fear. Only choice. The message was already encoded in me. Neural tattoos laced into my hippocampus. DNA-triggered memory capsules woven into my spine. If I couldn't send the data, I'd be the data, carried like a plague. And if I couldn't get to Proxima, I'd aim for the next best thing. The Vra'dari. They were the ones who pressed a button. Cold, calculated, arbiters of galactic stability. The same species who once traded with us, laughed with us, who took our music and poetry and asked for more, then decided we were too dangerous to breathe. So I'd give them one last gift. A human, unarmed, broken, burning with the last fire Earth ever lit. And they would regret letting even one of us live. As I sat back in the pilot's seat, rerouting life support to thrust, I looked once more at the feed. Earth wasn't there. Just a smear of radiation and memory. But I could still hear it. Not in sound, but in ache. The ache of a species denied its future. And the promise of a reckoning not born from vengeance, but something far worse. Understanding. Because once they truly understood us, they would never sleep again. The human soul is a strange thing. They thought they could erase us with light, but they forgot light cast shadows. And some of us were born in them. I reached Proxima Relay Outpost 3 on the 16th day after Earth's extinction, or maybe the 18th. Time bleeds when there's no sun to anchor it. The station drifted above Proxima B's turbulent storms like a grave marker, silent, solitary, and miraculously still active. No defense grid, no security drones. Just an open docking bay glowing faint green, like it was expecting me. I didn't trust it, but I didn't have choices anymore. I was dying, slowly. Radiation leaks had cooked one lung. Half my rations were irradiated. The other half expired. I'd stopped dreaming 3 days ago. And talking, I'd forgotten the sound of my own voice. Silence will do that to you. But as I drifted the Echo Station's last pod into the docking collar and heard the click of atmosphere equalization, something ancient inside me stirred. Not hope, instinct. The interior was warm, too warm, like the station had been holding its breath for someone to arrive. The lights flickered on, not automatic, manual. Someone or something was still here. I stepped cautiously through the access corridor. Dust drifted in zero-G like frozen ghosts. Old Earth flags peeled from the walls. A cracked screen displayed a flickering welcome message. Proxima R3, Relay Station, Colonial Tier. Status classified. Access level. Hazard 0 black. Humanity remembers. That last line wasn't protocol. It wasn't military or coded or technical. It was personal. I made my way to the core data vault. The elevator was dead, so I floated through emergency maintenance shafts. Along the way, I saw the signs, scorch marks, melted panels, impacts that didn't match decompression events. Someone had fought here, and someone had won. I found the corpses on Deck 3. Not human. Vra'dari. 4 of them. Limbs snapped backwards. Eyes frozen in terror. Their armor still faintly humming with energy. Short-range jumpsuits. They didn't storm the station. They blinked in, and they'd been slaughtered. That's when I found the signal beacon, hidden behind a false bulkhead, pulsing with tight band encryption. Ancient tech, human-made, but reconfigured, broadcasting in one direction, beyond the galactic core. I checked the signal path. It wasn't just a distress beacon. It was a breadcrumb, a trail leading somewhere hidden, deep in the black, past map space, past known colonies, past where any Vra'dari scanner would ever think to look. There were coordinates, and a single word burned into the encryption key. Checkmate. My pulse spiked. This wasn't random. This was the one move left. Humanity hadn't just hidden a story. We'd hidden a response. Something deeper than war. Older than revenge. Something we'd only use if we were already gone. I didn't know what was waiting at the end of that breadcrumb. But someone, maybe dozens, maybe thousands, had bled and died to make sure it survived. This station was never a relay hub. It was a decoy, a smokescreen, and now it had done its job. I spent the night, or whatever passed for it, patching the pod, downloading the coordinates, prepping for a burn that would take me beyond the rim, beyond every charted star. And then I heard it, a knock, 3 slow taps on the outer airlock. No alarms, no breach, just tapping. I grabbed my weapon, a repurposed mining cutter with just enough charge to split steel. I drifted to the viewport. Nothing. I cycled the cam feed. Empty, but I wasn't imagining things. Something had followed me. Back in the command bay, I checked the system logs. That's when I saw it. A single entry, time-stamped just 10 minutes earlier. Not from the pod. Not from me. Unknown entity accessed, restricted memory node. Location, Psych server / Dream Cache 1. File, Earth _2987 neural _echo. That was supposed to be sealed inside me. A dream seed, encoded memories. It had activated, but I hadn't triggered it. Something else had. And now, I wasn't sure I was alone anymore. I launched at first shift flight. No ceremony. No last message. No drama. The dead don't need farewells. I burned the pod through the black toward the coordinates. Past the nebulae. Past the perimeter of Vra'dari surveillance. Past everything we used to call safe or known. I wasn't human anymore. Not entirely. I was a weapon made of memory, guilt, and fury. a ghost encoded in flesh. They wiped out Earth. But Earth still had one last voice, and it was screaming through me. They wiped out Earth, but they never found Refuge Sigma, because it wasn't on a planet. It was a planet, or what was left of one. 3 weeks past the last map jump gate, my pod coasted to a region labeled No Spatial Return. The stars here were dim, wrong, ancient, like they'd forgotten how to shine. Radiation fields pulsed like dying embers, the cosmic debris of a war no one ever documented. And then I saw it, a shattered planetoid, cracked down at equator like a broken egg. No atmosphere, no magnetic field, just dust, ruins, and ruins inside the ruins. But it was glowing. Faint, blue veins ran through its stone like neural pathways. Pulsing, syncing with my ship's own systems, drawing me closer. The one move left was never about counterattack. It was about becoming something they couldn't predict. I landed at the coordinates, if you could call it landing. The pod barely survived the descent through the debris field. Stabilizers melted, hull scorched, life support choked by magnetic shear. By the time I staggered out of my precious suit, I wasn't sure if I was walking or dying upright. But then I saw them. People. Real, breathing humans. Dozens, maybe hundreds, wearing patchwork suits. Grown lean and hungry under weak gravity. Some of them children. Most armed. All staring at me like I was a myth. Name? One of them asked through the helmet speakers. Lieutenant Avery Cole. Earthblack Relay Echo 9. The name meant nothing, but my arrival did. They led me past towering husks of shattered machines. Old Earth tech grafted to alien alloys. Tanks fused with atmospheric collectors. Neural core vaults that thrummed like hearts. I saw old Mars flags stitched into walls. Ancient Earth graffiti scrawled in dozens of languages. This wasn't just survival. This was preservation. At the heart of the planet was a facility half buried in the rock. They called it the Forge. A hangar bay, laboratory, AI nexus, and memorial all in one. That's where I met Commander Ilara Saeed. Her hair had gone white at the roots. Skin dark and leathery from years under a dying sun. One eye cybernetic, the other still fierce and human. "You brought the key," she said flatly. I didn't need to ask how she knew. The dream seed had synced with their systems. My presence was the final trigger. Earth's fall was the last condition needed to awaken what lay beneath. "What is this place?" I asked. Her answer was like a blade. The future they tried to kill before it was born. The Forge wasn't built by survivors. It was built by traitors. Scientists, engineers, generals who saw the Vra'dari inevitability years before the war, who realized humanity would never be allowed to ascend, that our minds, our adaptability, our refusal to obey the galactic status quo would mark us for extermination. So they left. Fake deaths, erased files, hid in the one place no species would ever search, the heart of a dead star system that had collapsed during the last black hole harvesting operation. And here, they built Refuge Sigma, not to fight back, but to evolve. "We're not soldiers anymore," Ilara told me as she led me into the core. Massive rings of metal rotated around a pulsating singularity. Controlled gravity harness to sculpt biological matter, forge hybrid constructs, and bend time-sequence growth. This wasn't cloning. It wasn't cyborg enhancement. It was humanity rewritten. "They erased our species," she said, "but not our potential." The Forge was preparing something massive. Not a ship, not a weapon. A seed. A carrier of human consciousness, adaptable to any biosphere, able to outlive stars, outthink AI, and outfight any sentient predator in the known universe. An idea born from extinction. But they needed me to finish it, not because I was special, but because I had the last intact memory key from Earth, the final imprint of our history, culture, rage, and wonder. Without it, the seed would be powerful but soulless. "You're mine," she said, "is the last thread. You're not here to survive. You're here to be planted." I didn't sleep that night. I stood beneath the Forge's observation deck and looked into the broken stars, wondering if we were doing the right thing, creating life from the grave of a species, using extinction as fertilizer. Maybe we were monsters, Maybe we were visionaries. But I remembered Earth. Not just its fall, but its beauty, the messiness, the madness, the love and music and fire. And I knew one thing. Humanity didn't deserve to die in silence. It deserved to be screamed back into existence. The activation process begins tomorrow. The Forge will extract what's left of me. Every memory, every scar, every last breath of Earth. And then it will give birth to something new. They wiped out Earth. But humanity still had one move left. And we're just getting started. The extraction chair looked like a throne made for ghosts. Sleek, cold, and human. They strapped me in with reverence, like a relic being offered to the altar. Cables snaked into the ports at my spine. Neural contact points blinked in sequence, mapping every scar in my mind, every flash of memory, every buried scream. I didn't fight it. I'd already made my choice. They wiped out Earth. And now, I would become what comes after. The Forge pulsed around me, alive in a way that no machine should be. It wasn't AI, not exactly. It was something beyond, a fusion of human will and alien physics, grown from synthetic neurons, Martian crystal computing, and tech scavenged from dead Vra'dari ships. It listened as extraction began, and then I started to dream. I saw my mother's hands, scarred from decades of fieldwork in the farms of post-fall Montana. I saw my brother's laugh during the first Mars landing broadcast. I remember the heat of the riot lines in New Cairo, the ash from wildfires in Pacific Sector, the first time I held someone's hand in 0G and felt less alone. These were fragments, but fragments are what we were. No species in the galaxy carried memory like we did. No species weaponized pain into art, loss into invention, death into determination. The Forge drank all of it, but it didn't just absorb. It refined. The neural construct they called Seed, 01 was born 3 hours later, and it spoke in my voice. Identity acquired. It said, cultural core stabilized. Combat potential, adaptive. Emotional matrix, unstable but sufficient. Designation, sovereign spark. It stood on the platform, fully formed. Not flesh, not metal. Something in between. Humanoid, terrifying, beautiful. It wore my face. Not perfectly, more like a memory of my face shaped by fire and time. The kind of image a dying species would leave behind in legend. Delara stared at it with something like awe or fear. This is what we'll send out, she whispered. One to every dead world. One to every silent colony. They'll spread like spores. Learn. Adapt. Build. And fight, I added, because the Vra'dari would come again. They always do. We didn't wait. Within 48 hours, 12 seed units were activated, each embedded with a different fragment of humanity. Curiosity, fury, empathy, defiance, creation, sacrifice. I watched one meditate beside a broken satellite dish, head tilted toward the stars like it was praying. Another spent 10 minutes, simply listening to an old jazz track looping through my extracted memories. They weren't just weapons. They were echoes. And when the Vra'dari found this place, they wouldn't find survivors. They'd find the beginning of something they couldn't control. The Forge's last gift to me was choice. I could remain, help build, help train, or I could go with them, travel with one of the seed units, see what came next, be more than the source code, be the spark beside the fire. I didn't hesitate. Seed, 01, my echo, looked at me as we boarded the stealth craft. Its voice was low, even calm. You may die on this mission. I smirked. I already did. This is the second act. Delara didn't say goodbye. She simply saluted, like she was sending a funeral pyre into the stars. We jumped 2 days later, straight into the ruins of Neratessel, one of the first outer colonies burned in the Purge. A dead station orbiting a radioactive moon. No signals, no life, but there were eyes waiting. Vra'dari patrol ships. They thought we were survivors. They sent a boarding team. They never made it back. I watched Seed, 01 move through the corridors like a storm wrapped in silence. It didn't kill with rage. It killed with purpose. It absorbed their language mid-fight. used their weapons against them, hacked their memories through contact. One of the soldiers begged it for mercy. It paused. "I remember mercy," it said in my voice. But Earth taught me something better. Then it made sure the Vra'dari ship couldn't report back. We left a beacon in orbit, just one signal, repeating through every known frequency. You erased our home. You silenced our world. Now, hear the voice of what you try to destroy. We are the seed. We are the spark. We are what comes next. Then we vanished into the dark. They wiped out Earth. But Earth wasn't a place. It was a fire. And we're lighting every shadow in this galaxy with it, one system at a time. War has rhythm, not the thunder of guns or the screams of dying fleets. No, war is breath, repetition, a beat you learn to live inside. Kill, move, hide, transmit, repeat. 3 months into the campaign, we had systems burning with that rhythm. Silent ruins once choked by fear now shimmered with coded messages, left like breadcrumbs for survivors and scattered resistance. We are still here. We are coming back. We remember Earth. And in the black between those echoes, the seeds bloomed. We hit Yasari Drift, a scrapyard world stripped of life during the culling. Vra'dari terraformers had turned it into a recycling node, a factory of silence. But beneath its synthetic crust, Ilera's intel said survivors might have made a burrow colony. Hidden, malnourished, unreachable by conventional comms. So we went in. Seed 03 came with me this time. They called themselves Lumen. They were odd. Of all the constructs, they'd absorbed the most human strangeness. Humor, reflection, even grief. Lumen didn't speak often, but when they did, the galaxy stopped to listen. As we descended through the rust clouds, I asked them something that had haunted me since the beginning. Do you remember pain? They didn't look at me, just watched the drifting metal rise like tides against our hull. Every copy of you remembers pain, they said, but I don't feel like you do. Is that better? They finally turned. It's worse. The colony was real, buried inside a heat-shielded cargo, holed beneath the planet's old orbital foundry. 86 humans, 4 generations removed from Earth. Pale, thin, almost feral. But they remembered our language. They remembered the stories. And when I told them what we were, what we'd become, they didn't cheer. They didn't cry. They simply asked, "What took you so long?" We got the children out first. Lumen carried 3 of them on their back, like a living fortress. The adults followed, nervous, armed. Some of them trained once under Earth's last militias. Some had never seen the stars. It should have been easy, but nothing's easy anymore. The Vra'dari showed up before exfil was complete. 2 cruisers. No warning. No demand for surrender. Just fire. Lumen moved like lightning. They ripped a hole in the upper deck and launched themselves through it. No ship, no shield, just momentum and fury. I saw them tear into a Vra'dari drop pod midair, tear open the armor, extract its core, and hurl it like a sun into the cruiser's bridge. The kid screamed. But it wasn't fear. It was the first time they'd seen a god wearing our face. We lost 17 people that day, but we saved 69. Not a perfect record, but better than 0. And we left behind more than wreckage. We carved Earth's flag into the soil of the Yasari Drift. A symbol, a warning, a promise. That's how the galaxy started whispering again. Not about humans, about ghosts, about sparks, about stories they tried to erase that refused to stay dead. Pirate channels carried rumors. Mining colonies painted old Earth war slogans on bulkhead walls. Even some of the stable species, the ones who voted for our extinction, began doubting the narrative. That's when we intercepted the transmission. Seed signal detected. Coordinates locked. All Council strike fleets mobilizing. Designation. Phoenix Extermination Protocol. They'd finally noticed. They were scared. Good. Ilera sent us a message from Forge Sigma. Short, cold. This is what we wanted. Make them come. Make them see. Make them choose. We weren't hiding anymore. We were daring them to answer for what they did. Because this time, we weren't bringing fleets. We were bringing truth. wrapped in the shape of vengeance. Seed, 01 stood beside me as we watched the stars shift with incoming heat signatures. They spoke softly, almost like an echo from the day I first met them. You think we can win? I looked back toward the children sleeping in the hold. We already did, I said, because we're still breathing. And then I looked at the enemy fleet numbers. 112 warships, 11 battle cruisers, a dreadnought, all for a single human, all for me. They wiped out Earth. But Earth gave birth to something worse. A story that kills back. There's no sound in space. But when the Vra'dari fleet arrived, I swear I heard drums. They dropped out of warp like falling swords. Precise, beautiful, merciless. They surrounded the Asari drift like it owed them an apology. Sensors lit red. Target locks blinked. The dreadnought, Ruthless Ascension, spoke first. This sector is under Vra'dari jurisdiction. Biological insurgents will be terminated. Comply or perish. I sent one reply. Simple. Broadcast on every frequency. We are the consequence. And then we unleashed hell. They thought they were hunting survivors. They didn't understand they were standing in a minefield of memory. Illyra's tech teams had rigged the surface with gravitic echo traps, warp-time signatures, looped seismic distortions, and explosive dark matter pockets programmed to respond to Vra'dari hull codes. The first wave of landing craft never even made it to atmosphere. One moment, 30 dropships were screaming toward the colony. The next, a black hole blinked open, swallowed them, and collapsed with a whimper. It was surgical, elegant, and very human, but they adapted fast. The second wave landed hard. Drones, kill teams, atmosphere chokes. Their logic was simple. Trap us, burn the site, vaporize the evidence. What they didn't account for were the seeds. Seed 07, Kale, was the first into the fray. She'd been sculpted for one thing, misdirection. Her form blurred the line between human and something faster. Her skin shimmered in refracted light. Her mind ran parallel simulations mid-combat. She danced through kinetic fire like it was snow, leaving broken machines in her wake. Lumen followed next, carrying 2 makeshift railguns repurposed from the Drift's old drilling rigs. They roared through the battlefield like ancient gods with Tekken teeth. And Seed 01, my echo, moved through the chaos and silence. A conductor of violence. Precise, cold, beautiful in its fury. But me? I wasn't built to be a warrior. I was built to be heard. While they fought, I climbed the old satellite tower. No armor, no shields, just a beacon strapped to my back and a signal drone coded with a full record of Earth's fall. Footage, audio, cultural memory, DNA imprints, AI testimonies. And I aimed it not at the Vra'dari, but at everyone else. This wasn't just vengeance anymore. It was exposure. The signal launched just as the Vra'dari dreadnought charged its primary weapon, a planetary disintegration beam, usually reserved for moons. They weren't targeting us. They were erasing the crime scene. Standard protocol. Only this time, the scene was fighting back. Lumen leapt onto the dreadnought's hull, with one of the gravitic bombs rigged to my old pod's core. I saw them crack open the vent plating and vanish inside. 30 seconds later, Ruthless Ascension began to come apart. Not in fire. In silence. It folded in on itself, the weight of its own arrogance collapsing as black waves rippled through its superstructure. The explosion was beautiful, but the broadcast was louder. Across the sector, thousands of ships, neutral, pirate, colonial, council allied, received our transmission. Some scoffed, some wept, some panicked, but none of them could say they didn't know any more. The Vra'dari retreated. Not all. Some stayed and died. Others tried to disable the Forge's broadcast relays. Unaware, we had dozens spread across fringe space. They didn't understand the nature of our final move. This wasn't a rebellion. This was a contagion of truth. I walked through the battlefield once the dust settled. Burned metal. Scattered armor. Vra'dari glyphs charred black against the dirt. A child in the colony ran up to me, holding a rifle too big for their hands. "Are we safe now?" they asked. I looked at the stars, those distant watchers. "No," I said, "but We're not silent anymore. The galaxy had heard us, and soon they'd have to choose. Join the ones who tried to bury us, or follow the spark that refused to die. They wiped out Earth. But Earth taught us one last lesson before it fell. If your enemy controls the future, teach them to fear your past. It started with silence. Now the galaxy was on fire. Broadcasts repeating in forgotten tongues. Flags stitched from ash and memory. Human songs encoded into surveillance satellites. Truth infecting every network, system, and synapse. The Vra'dari had built an empire on control. We shattered it with remembrance. Refuge Sigma no longer hid in the dark. The Forge was awake, fully awake. Dozens of seeds had deployed across fringe systems, each carving out sparks of human culture and strength in the ashes of extinction. Some called us terrorists, others prophets. But the most dangerous ones called us something else. The future. I returned to Sigma 2 cycles after the drift burned. I didn't recognize it. The cracked world I'd once landed on was now an ecosystem of rebirth. Gravity fields stabilized the atmosphere. Terraforming spores from old Earth had taken root. Ferns, mosses, fungi glowing faint gold under Sigma's artificial sky. There were people, thousands, not just humans, not just seeds. Refugees, dissidents, scientists, machines that remembered who built them, even Vra'dari defectors who had seen our message and asked to join. That was the real war. Not bombs, not ships, memory. And we were winning. Ilera met me on the observation deck of the Forge. She looked older, wearier, but there was something in her eyes now that hadn't been there before. Not fear, pride. You made the galaxy listen, she said. We made it remember. I corrected. I stood before the seed chambers again, watched a new generation of hybrid minds take shape. Part flesh, part code, all rage and wonder and vision. One of them opened its eyes and looked at me, unblinking. Are we still at war? It asked. I paused. We are what comes after war. The Council tried to respond, tried to reassert control. But every time they sent ships, systems rose up. Every time they silenced one node, 5 more bloomed. Their algorithms couldn't stop it. Their diplomats couldn't spin it. Their warriors couldn't kill it. Because you can't kill a story that's already been lived. And now, we were writing the next chapter. We called the movement the Echo Armada. Not a fleet, not an army. An idea. Some seeds taught. Others built. A few still fought when they had to. But most, they carried Earth, not as a place, but as a truth. Humans weren't just survivors. We were the species that said no. To control. To silence. To oblivion. And now we whisper that defiance into every corner of the stars. I don't know what's next. Maybe we'll burn out. Maybe we'll build something better. But every time I look into a child's eyes, Vra'dari human machine born, I know one thing. We made sure they'll remember us. They wiped out Earth. But they left one piece on the board. And when the last fleet falls and the last tyrant gasps for breath, and the galaxy asks what went wrong, they'll trace it all back to the move they missed. The one they never saw coming. The one who watched, who survived, who became more than memory. Me, the last witness. The first spark. The echo of Earth.